Good morning, Tuesday morning here. Well, I got the Philco 3812 in the house on my computer desk. It's not going to be able to be used there because you'll never receive anything. It looks nice in there. And I found an unopened bottle of Old English, so I might treat that with some Old English, but I'm not going to worry about that now. Thanks to Doug Morslack. He told me to, and several people have mentioned, clean the tube sockets are probably dirty. And you know, when I pulled the tube sockets themselves, even though the radio was a crusty mess, tube sockets look clean, so I didn't even think of cleaning them. Buddy, the radio shop, gave me the pinout, but I've already pretty much found it on my own. And I've been running this now on all the tubes, like I say, thanks to Doug and the others who chimed in and told me to clean the tube sockets, and that's what it was. And I, believe it or not, all the tubes are lighting. I still don't know if the 6AL5 lights, but it feels warm, so I assume it is. I still have to check and see if that resistor, that 6.8 ohm resistor, which shows on the schematic as pin 5, which is not the filament. 3 and 4 is the filament. And I can still do that, but it's an awful job getting in there. This is the 6AL5. These things here hold the tubes in, but they're always pulling the tubes over on an angle. And they are held in with a Phillips screw. If you're going to use this as a, not a mobile, and who's going to use it as a mobile set, you could take these off. There was only one Phillips screw that holds each one of these on. It makes it easier to take the tubes in and out. It's a hard job getting the tube out because you have to bend these things way out of the way in order to get the tube out. And I had to loosen this one up so that I could get these tubes out. I cleaned the tube sockets and now everything lights. I also tried to put in the 220 volts DC needed using my ICO 950B. I only can get 65 volts out of it. It puts out about 450 volts, but of course the radio draws too much current, so it can't handle it. On the telemic, it goes out with 600 volts. The most I can get out of it is 147 volts. But it's straining, and I don't want to overheat the transformer or any current limiting resistors that may be in there. So I really need to make a regular power supply for it in order to see if I'm getting anything out of it. So it doesn't look like a fail. I was just, really uptight when I thought I was going to have to deal with all the wiring and stuff in there. So I'll continue on that. Now, I think it was Lucky Larry. He has the same air-o-ear radio as I have. And I'm trying to explain, there's an unknown, very thin wire. You may not even be able to see that on the video. I don't know where it came from. It doesn't look like it came from any of these coils. This coil, ferrite core is broken. But it's soldered to the where the speaker is. And I've been trying to explain that, but I guess I'm not understood, maybe, because maybe his radio wasn't like that. What I need is a photo, a clear photo shot of the top of this chassis. This might have been added, but it looks like it's factory. There's a tab, there's a terminal here right there. And that thin wire was just hanging. It's as thin as a human hair. It's super thin. But it don't look like it came off of anything here. If it did, somebody might have added it. Maybe it came off of this coil. Maybe not the actual winding here, but maybe it was a winding on top of this coil. That I don't know. The Radio Museum is totally useless. About the only thing you can get from them is the specifications on the radio, when it was made, and this and that. Schematics are horrible, unreadable. So, I found almost every tube socket is so worn out and loose that I had to get up underneath the chassis and pinch the pins together. It's got those very cheap, there goes my flashlight, and I needed it. Well, I hope you can see it. There's one right dead ahead there. Right there, my thumb is. Phenolic type tube sockets, they're the worst ones. And you have to get in there with a needle nose, a magnifying glass, or a microscope, and squeeze the pins together to make good contact, because every one of these sockets are loose. So this is the audio output tube. I got that tightened up where it doesn't make all kinds of static and you wiggle the tube and it hums and, you know, it cuts out and everything else. Now that's okay. I got to do the same to this tube socket. I got to do the same to this tube socket. And these tubes here. I wiggle these two in the shield, they seem to be okay. But I'll tell you, this is a mystery, this wire right here. Why is it fastened here? Anybody got any answers for that? Because I don't. Okay, I'm not going to be doing much this morning. I had to call a plumber. Kitchen faucet is leaking at the stem, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos on that. And when it comes to plumbing, I can't deal with it because I usually have major leaks. That's one thing I'm no good at at all. Of course, I'm not good at very much of anything, to be honest with you. But getting underneath and getting at the big nuts that hold the faucet in requires a basin wrench. Years ago, and that was 10 or 15 years ago when I had good eyesight, I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't get the basin wrench to do anything. Hire a plumber, you know. And I got a fellow that's a licensed plumber coming this morning. We had to clean out under the sink. I just finished doing that. He's going to come in about an hour and going to put it in. And very reasonable. He's going to charge $100, which I think at the type of work he's got to do, he says some of them nuts are pot metal and they have to be broken off. And I don't know what's on there. I had a plumber put that in years ago. Because you know how a kitchen is a double basin stainless steel kitchen sink. And you got a space that wide between the side of the sink and the wall to get way up in there. And it's a nightmare of a job. And so I went out yesterday and bought the faucet. It was a Glacier Bay Home Depot cheapie, but $40. They go up from there substantially. What was in there was a Peerless, I think it was a Peerless, brand new that I bought at a yard sale and had the plumber put in there about 15 years ago. But those things are almost $200, $150 anyways. So they're all going to wear out anyhow. And we got hard water here. We have well water. So, you know. And we've used Glacier Bays before, and they're not too bad. So this guy's very reasonable. I talked to him for quite a while on the phone. Like I say, he's a licensed plumber. And he says if we need anything, I could run down to Home Depot and get it, and whatever the extra cost, that's it. So if I had called another company, it would be double that. It would be at least $200. I know, I've dealt with them. There are plumbing and heating service that mostly does mobile homes, and they nail you. They nail you good for at least $200 to replace a faucet. And Home Depot will subcontract it out, and I did that too. Guy called me on the phone because I have several things lined up in case one don't pan out. So I really didn't want Home Depot to come. So I got a message on my cell phone from a guy who did not speak too clearly good English. We gave me his number, and he says, we are the service for Home Depot, and we can come over and install your fixture for you. And they'd come over and give you an estimate. You want to go with it or not? Well, I called the number. He repeated it twice, and it was a disconnected number for Electric Boat Division, which is in Groton, Connecticut. Well, so that ends that. I at least tried to call him back and tell him that I don't need you to come over. So when I bought the faucet at Home Depot set me up with this, and he says you're not obligated to go with them, but it's there if you need it. So I really am glad that this other guy came through, because Home Depot is going to nail me probably for at least $200 or more for that installation too. So I think $100 cash out the door. That's what he wants. I have no problem with that. Licensed plumber. Fine. So a very nice gentleman, and he sounds it on the phone. Sounds very honest. So that's what's going on today. Because that faucet was leaking so bad, it was not only leaking, how those gooseneck faucets come up, and you got a handle on each, the hot and cold water. When you turn it on, it all leaks on the base of the gooseneck. And you can feel corrosion where the gooseneck comes in, that little collar you're supposed to turn off. Well, I couldn't even move it with a strap wrench. And I'm glad I didn't take it out, because the plumber informed me that it's probably all corroded and it's going to fall apart on you. It's at least 15 years old. And the water comes out on the sink side, most of it, and in the back. Well, if it keeps coming out the back, it's going to rot the countertop out. And that's only particle board, and then would have a major job replacing the entire 6-foot-long countertop. Oh, I don't even want to think about that. So that's on the agenda, folks. But anyways, if anybody has got any information and a decent schematic, I know Lucky Larry had no luck getting a schematic that was any good. Radio Museum, like I say, is totally useless. I can never get anything from Radio Museum. I sign in. I've mentioned this before. And all you get is a partial schematic, and the only thing you can get is the specifications, the year it was made, and what the tubes are, how many tubes are in it, what they do. That's about all. But I need to know why. Oh, I guess the wire came off. Why is there a hair-thin wire on here? And I think it did come off. Here it is right here. You can probably just barely see it. It's very short, but the fact that it was soldered here leads me to believe that it's something to do with the antenna circuit, and it appeared to be wound loosely on the end of this coil, which is broken here. Okay, so it might be like what they call a gimmick. I don't know. So Larry, if you got access to the radio, can you check and see if there's a wire soldered here and is wrapped around here or somewhere, or goes from here down? But it's so thin, I'm inclined to believe that it was simply wrapped around the outside of this coil. Now, because the tubes are so loose in here, it's quite staticky. I brought it up on the dim bulb. It appears that the electrolytic may be okay, but I'm going to check the current draw of this. It doesn't seem to pick up very much. It picks up 1 or 2 AM stations, and a lot of noise and stuff, and nothing more on all the other bands. So of course I haven't tested the tubes, and I got to tighten up all these tube sockets. So that's it on that. I got this, and I still got to work on this Emerson, not GE. So but I'm not going to get involved until the plumber leaves. So that's the end of this video for today. I'm way behind on answering comments on my own video. This morning I turned the computer on and I answered for the Brooklyn Fair comments, but I haven't checked my other videos recently, so I don't know what's on those. Kind of busy with videos, but I'm also tied up with these radios. And I really, with the beautiful weather we've got now, I mean, I had, it was a little chilly this morning, but I love it. And I really should be doing some outside work. All right, that concludes it. Enough flapping for this morning. Talk to you later. Have a good day, everybody.